In a world where ordinary toilets had suddenly sprouted heads and started singing Milo dop dop yes yes, chaos reigned. These were the Milo toilets, and they loved to bop. Against them stood the heroic cameramen, speaker heads, and TV heads, trying to bring peace and quiet back to the land. One sunny, slightly chaotic morning, a small, rather clumsy Milo toilet named Johan, with a tiny, shy head, was trying his best to join the grand Milo chorus. He'd spin, he'd sway, he'd try to sing Milo, but he always ended up wobbling, falling over, or flushing too early. The bigger, more boisterous Milos would just roll their eyes if toilets had eyes, which, with heads, they sort of did. Oh, Johan, sighed a grumpy old Milo with a mustache. You're ruining the rhythm. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bustling city of Flushville, lived a very enthusiastic young cameraman named Lenz. Lenz loved his job of trying to capture Milo toilets. But he was new, and sometimes he got a little too excited. Instead of sneaking up, he'd often trip over his own tripod or loudly say, "Gotcha," before the Milo had even noticed him. One day, the mighty G-Man Milo, a giant toilet with powerful lasers for eyes, decided to host the Great Milo Rhythm Rumble. The prize, a golden plunger that would grant one wish. All the Milos were practicing their loudest Milo dop-dop and their most dizzying spins, but Johan, despite his clumsiness, secretly wished he could win. Lenz, hearing about the rumble, saw it as the perfect chance to catch the G-Man Milo. "This is my moment," he whispered, polishing his lens. The day of the rumble arrived. The city square was packed with cheering Milos, watching the contestants. Johan went last. He started his spin, tried to hit his note, but whoosh. He accidentally flushed himself backward, right into a giant pile of rubber ducks. The crowd erupted in laughter. Johan felt his tiny head shrink with embarrassment. Suddenly, a shadow fell over the square. It was Lenz. He had finally snuck close enough to the G-Man Milo. "Freeze, Milo," Lenz shouted, aiming his camera. But just as he was about to activate his anti-Milo beam, Lenz tripped over Johan, who was still tangled in the rubber ducks. The anti-Milo beam misfired and bounced off a lamppost, heading straight for the golden plunger. "Oh no," cried G-Man Milo. If the plunger was destroyed, no one would get a wish. Seeing the beam heading for the prize, Johan, despite his shyness, did something incredible. With a mighty whoosh and a spin, he launched himself like a torpedo right into the path of the beam, bowing. The beam hit Johan, but instead of destroying him, it made him spin faster and faster, bouncing off the walls of the city square. He was a blur of white rubber ducks flying off him like confetti. He was a whirling dervish of Milo energy. The crowd gasped. The G-Man Milo stared. Lenz, picking himself up, couldn't believe his eyes. Johan, the clumsy little Milo, had just performed the most amazing, unplanned Milo spin ever seen. The G-Man Milo cleared his throat. Well, he rumbled. That was unexpected and quite the rhythm. Johan, you have saved the golden plunger, and your dance was unique. You win. Johan, dizzy but delighted, received the golden plunger. I won, he stammered. Lens, feeling a bit foolish but also impressed, walked over. Hey, Johan, he said. Thanks for saving the plunger. You're actually pretty good at that spinning thing. Johan looked at the golden plunger. He could wish for perfect rhythm or to be the biggest Milo. But then he looked at Lens, who seemed a bit down because his mission had failed. I wish, Johan said loudly, that all the cameramen and Milo toilets could have a moment of peace and quiet, just for one day, and maybe a giant pizza party for everyone. Poof, the golden plunger glowed. Suddenly, all the Milo toilets stopped their Milo dop. The cameramen lowered their cameras. A wave of silence, followed by the delicious smell of pepperoni, filled the air. Giant pizzas appeared everywhere. Whoa, said Lens, grabbing a slice. A pizza party with Milos. This is new. Johan smiled, eating his pizza. From that day on, the fighting didn't stop entirely, but the mothers and cameramen learned that even enemies could share a slice of pizza and a moment of peace. And Johan, the clumsy little Milo, became known not for his bad rhythm, but for his kind heart and his amazing rubber duck-fueled Milo spin. Moral of the story: even the smallest and clumsiest among us can make a big difference. And sometimes unexpected friendships can lead to the best surprises.